Hello, Fearless Gamers, and welcome to another episode of Touching Base here on Fearless Games.
What up, boys?
How's it going? Um, we got this all fat. We're here. The entire crew's here. We got bearded people on one side, non-bearded people on the other.
Not
Balance
on my
in the
screen.
force.
Not on my screen. We're boy girl over here on my
Oh.
screen.
Wait, who has? Oh, both the mats have beards. I was gonna say I only see
Yes.
one
Yeah.
beard.
Glorious.
Mine's invisible.
It's too
Oh.
hot for beards here.
So, rare occasion,
bet.
we've got the Phil here in the Zoom call. So, we are here, as you can tell by the episode title, to discuss episode 8 and the series in general of Star Wars the Acolyte. But before we get into this, Phil hasn't been here. Do you have any quick opinions on 1 through 7?
Okay, I guess quick opinions on 1 through 7. It's hard to remember it all because it's now been 2 months. Episodes 1 and 2, fine, good beginning. I like the sea cow in the first episode in the background. That's the thing I saw right away because I'm a Knights of the Old Republic geek. Third episode, super cool, big fan. Generally, I like that one. Episode 4 was slow. Episode 5 was the coolest fight scene ever. Episode 6 was a really nice slow episode that was a nice come down after the big climax of episode 5. 7 was the completion of episode 3. Nice pairing. I think both episodes are good. I'll talk about my issues with that later. That's my quick rundown.
Alrighty, so let us all now get into the discussion of episode 8.
Thought you were holding
Timed
a
that.
camera, and then I was like, "Why is he taking a picture of a video?" And then I said, "It's a mug." So
Yeah, he's taking out a Vader's
Well-
skull.
Well, if you've watched in every episode, I've had a different Star Wars mug for every
Mhm.
video. So go back and watch those videos. And so I figured for the last one, I have my most extremist mug for the last episode.
Well, when you popped it open, that looked like the flash of a camera. I'm like, "Why does it have an old like film camera?" I'm just like, yeah.
I specifically
Um,
sent my parents down to Disney to get me this mug.
Good
Nice.
lord.
They're-
What are you
they're
drinking
all-
anyway? What are you drinking out of that bad boy anyway?
Nothing fun. I have no fun drinks. It's just soda.
What kind? What kind of soda?
Yeah,
It's
well, I
Coke.
mean, it
Oh,
fits.
okay, good choice.
But you know, 8 was derailed for me in a good way. Like I loved 8,
Mhm.
but I was hoping I was gonna be able to make a like a joke to myself when I saw it, but then I realized what I saw, and then I was like, is this the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? It's like, is this it that he gets a cameo and then possibly never shows up again? But like,
yeah,
I was really thinking it was gonna be Coral. I wanted to be like walking there, go, it's Coral, but it was Darth Plagueis.
It just like I'm over here thinking there are definitely people out there who watched The Acolyte and are sitting here confused as to why Gollum made an appearance.
I think he looked fantastic, but yeah, it was so
he
out
looked-
of nowhere.
He looked
Yeah,
great.
it was
and
very
it was
out
a
of
great
nowhere.
shot. It
Yeah.
was a great shot, but it was the ultimate Glupshido moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Just this cameo by a character that a handful of like deeper fans are able to spot immediately, that the
Mhm.
average casual fan is like, "Who?"
and
Yeah.
it goes
Um,
nowhere. Like, I was expecting, like, the whole Yoda cameo. I was expecting him to meet with Quamir, or at least at some point, to give us some connection as to why he's
Well, see,
randomly in the cave.
I don't even know if they're connected. It could be a
That's-
case of
They
like,
might
Yeah,
not
we
be.
This
know
guy is-
jack shit.
Yeah,
he's
like, we
what's
don't
this
know
guy
anything.
doing on my planet? It's just like,
Sure. He just maybe it was like The Hangover, where he just woke up in that cave and he's like, where am I?
yeah.
I think ultimately that little shot, that cameo, I have like a problem with it, and then I also think of a way it could have been done better. My problem with it is that it feels very much like the showrunners dangling keys in front of us saying, "Oh, you want season 2? You want to watch season 2? You'll
Yep.
get Darth Plagueis." And I think it would have felt less egregious if they had put it closer to the end of the episode instead of like at the fucking beginning,
Yeah.
then never did anything with it. Like
Mm.
maybe not the fucking beginning, but it was placed pretty awkwardly.
It was
is
about
very,
20 minutes in.
Like
Yeah. Like I
yeah,
said,
like it was placed pretty awkwardly. Like if they had just done it like right after Yoda or something.
It was
It's
done in
basically-
a way where you thought they were going to go back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like, well, first off, when it happened, I was watching it and messaging Matt because
Mhm.
he had watched it before me, and just all caps lock. I'm like, the fuck was that? What was that? And like Plagueis, just all caps. But like, as a fan who knows who that's supposed to be, it's exciting. If you didn't know who it was, you'd be confused.
Yeah, again,
And
Gollum.
they cut it out completely. It didn't affect the episode. I think
Yep.
it might be my only thing with the episode,
Didn't
or
add
you tag it
anything,
at the
yeah.
end as like the stinger, but they put
Yeah.
it there because that's the end of that section. Like they don't ever go back to the planet, so it makes sense to put it there, but it does serve no purpose except
Yeah,
well,
for
they were
like,
back at the end when they were holding.
Yeah, they're
the
back
saber.
watching the water.
But-
oh
at
yeah,
the
yeah,
end.
you're
They
right.
could have
could've
shown
done
him
that.
looking at them at
They
the
could have
water.
had him do it right. Like as it is, he was lurking like the husband in a very specific genre of adult video. So they could have had it at the moment where they're holding hands.
Yeah.
Like just
Yeah.
lurking, going, "What are you guys doing? Do
I-
you guys need any drinks?" Like,
I like that, as I
God.
think James even mentioned, a couple of people are already starting to speculate, like, he might not be related to him at all. Maybe he just found them, he fell upon it, he's sneaking around. He might not be the stranger Chymere's relation in any way, shape, or form, or he could be. And it's
I
open
wouldn't-
enough that we could go either way with that, I
See,
think.
I think that that's the one issue with putting it smack dab in the middle of the episode, because I
Mhm.
loved the cameo. I thought he looked great, like this lich looking. You can see where Sidious gets his aesthetic from. It's so good.
oh, for
But like,
sure.
but like it's just like, okay, we have had zero buildup to even thinking you were gonna show up. So that's
Mhm.
what made it so kind of like I almost spit on my screen because I was like, "What's this?" But super cool to see him. But
Excuse me.
like maybe has nothing to do with Khmer. Could be a case that he's like, you know, because everybody was saying, this screws up Anakin, this screws up Anakin, this screws up Anakin, these twins, right?
Not
But it's
at
just
all.
like not at all. But it's like either he is looking at, well, that was my beta test, and clearly it's not working well because, well, the people I gave instructions to made 2 instead of 1, and like blah 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 blah. Or he's like, I smell a virgins. What is that? And then he's just like
Hey,
as if he's researching, or he's
Yeah,
setting up his
just like
ultimate
Saul.
creation. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Like-
I assume like he's like, ooh, a thing I can use, and that's what I hope that we'll get out of him
Yeah.
later.
Because as you know, he does have that whole, searching for the ability to basically be immortal, and
Hmm.
an emergence that is capable of creating life fits in with his goals, especially since we know what happens in episodes 3 when it's revealed about Anakin and all that jazz. So
Mhm.
it's a nice little
And
tie-in.
episode 9, where we see someone literally resurrecting themselves using the Force
Yeah.
and clones.
Yep.
It's just it's
Um,
what I liked about it is that this was like this is bona fide Sith, right? This is isn't I have no name, you might call me
Yeah.
Sith. This is I am Sith. And what I like about it is it was quiet, right? Because
Mhm.
whenever we see Sith in film, it's always the equivalent of Parkinson's, and it's like, okay, whoa, chill. And now he's just like, he's
Yeah,
just
I-
it
he's
was
just
a very
sitting there,
subtle
like, what's up?
thing.
Yeah. I respect that level of restraint. Like there's definitely a universe where like he puts his hand on the cave wall and you see his face, and then a red lightsaber and
Yeah.
fucking activates next to him.
And the
just to make
Emperor
sure the
theme
viewer
starts
knows.
playing.
Yeah.
Right. Like I respect the level of restraint they had. I question the execution overall based on the
Yes.
timing.
Yeah,
I
the
personally
timing
am
is-
trying not to get too deep into the speculation on it
Yeah.
because we just don't have like we're making bricks with no clay.
Yeah.
Like we're
And the
building a house on sand with speculation. here.
the interesting thing about that is that all the speculation happening online. The showrunners do have a plan of some kind for seasons 2 and season 3. They've already said that
Sure,
if they get
yeah.
to do them, they could look at those ideas and be like, we're not gonna do that. And just because people think that, we're gonna make it look like that and then twist it or something
You
like
know,
that. You know?
True.
Mhm.
I have a question with that. Also, going back to the whole like the restraint thing, it's like red lightsaber and then Vader's breathing for no reason other than fan service. That would have been also in there.
Exactly.
But like, I have speaking of that though, when I don't know who was on the line that Vanessa was like, "We got a problem" or whatever type of
Oh,
deal. When she,
Yoda?
like, did the thing. No, before that. Like when she
Yeah.
was like basically the equivalent of talking.
Oh, I
Yeah, and they were
was
like, "This is
assuming the
very
person she was
unorthodox" or
meshing.
whatever.
Yeah, I was
It
assuming she
seems
was
like it was
talking to
probably
Yoda.
yeah.
I don't
Didn't
know.
sound
Cool.
like
It's
Yoda,
just
though.
it didn't sound like Yoda. It sounded
Oh.
honestly when I heard it, it sounded like Palpatine from Naboo. Like
I've
when
heard
he was
that a
on the
lot.
radio.
I didn't hear that. I heard a lot of people say that. I think it was just probably like
Oh, I don't think it
Yoda's
was him.
secretary.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't think it was
yeah.
actually him, but it's just like that sound clip was just I was just like, well, that's like a callback. Speaking of callbacks, he was a pupil of mine before he turned to evil. I love that. I love the use of that line.
Mm.
They
Yeah,
just did a
that was
lot of cool
cool.
little callback
Yeah.
things.
And
It also makes me wonder whether Kymir's actual name.
It's not.
Right.
It's
Right,
100%
but like,
not.
well, what I'm wondering is Kymir gonna end up being Vernestra's Padawan from the books? Who, like, I think I haven't read the books up to this point, but I remember reading like a little quick synopsis, and Vernestra has a Padawan in the books, and it kind of goes bad, and he kind of like starts leaning towards the dark, and by
Mhm.
my understanding, he's believed to be dead at the moment.
which she did
So I
think
don't know
Maybe.
if
was
there's
Because he's
right.
supposed
So
to be really old, and yeah.
right. So I don't know if it's gonna end up being him, whose name I can't remember, or if it's gonna be a different Padawan. In which case, lady, you got a bad track record.
Yeah.
you shouldn't be
Well,
teaching.
all I can hope for is I kind of hope that it goes back to like the one line he did say when it comes to this a little bit more speculation where he says like maybe you'd call me a Sith. Like I hope he's not a Sith. I really do hope that they go the route of like him and maybe Osha and just whoever making the Knights of Ren and just being that other offshoot.
I think
Yeah.
he for sure has to have at least encountered a Sith for the
Yeah.
level
Yeah.
of like the
Sith
level of like
knowledge.
weird not Jedi shit he's got going
Mhm.
on. Like he's got
And the
Cortosis
borderline
helmet.
semi quotes of Sith quotes.
Right.
Quote
So
Yeah.
I
unquote.
feel like he
Mhm.
had to at least spend some time with one, but whether or
Yeah.
not like Darth Maul. Darth Maul by the time we encounter him in the like Rebels, he's not a Sith. He's a Sith, but he's not.
Yeah.
He's
Because
not.
he's like
He's just a dark force
he's been
user.
kicked out of the church. But,
Yep.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if
And-
maybe Kymir's also been excommunicated in
And-
that way.
Kind of like
Yeah, and if
Ventress,
Chimera
where
is a-
Ventress would call herself Sith, but the Sith were like, no, you're
No,
not.
you're not."
We don't
Right,
recognize
but
you."
kinda
Well,
maybe-
she was different
but,
because
like,
she
the other
wasn't
way
even
around.
like allowed
Yeah.
to be a Darth. She was just
Yeah.
a tool the whole time.
With Chimera, if it is the case, because he did say it was a long time ago, and he doesn't look that
Mhm.
old, so it could be a case that he does know Plagueis. Maybe Plagueis is like, this is a useful tool. He's not Sith. I won't make him Sith, but I'll give him just enough to do stuff for me.
Right,
could be
and
that
see how
too.
it goes,
he
and see
could-
if there's
yeah.
anything I can steal
Hy-
from that. Like he might be a
hypothetically-
guinea pig in like.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Because
go
he
ahead.
could prevent other
No,
people
sorry.
from dying.
Yeah. No, I was just about to say he could have been the one that gave him the Cortosis.
Yeah.
Well, if you look in Kymir's like little base, he's got a whole vein of it up one.
Yeah, but
wall.
what- but-
Oh,
No,
I didn't notice.
he might have
that.
been who taught. He might have taught Kymir about the Cortosis, or like
Hmm.
shown him, hey, look at this cool metal that you can mine. But what
Apparently,
I'm
On my
in the
wondering,
world,
books,
that you're on.
in the books, apparently Plagueis does have like a like knows where Cortosis is and is like mining it. So like that could be his planet, and like Plagueis
yeah,
said, like he
but
could have
you
shown
gotta
Chimera
take
how
that
to
with a
use it
grain
and
of
stuff.
salt, because
Yeah,
by my
'cause-
understanding, the Plagueis book is no longer canon.
Yep, it's no longer
Oh, okay.
canon.
Grain of
My mistake.
salt. Well, but
Yeah.
that said, it's worth pointing out as a possible thing that
Thing
could have
to be
happened.
included.
Because
Right,
again,
'cause
they've
it's
been
not.
they've been mining stuff from expanded universe.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
So-
Like it's not all off limits, but until it's confirmed, we have to
Yeah.
Yeah.
be
That-
careful
that-
saying
that
grain
reminds-
of salt.
I have a
But-
little gripe, So I've been watching the show the whole time, like every week. As soon as I can watch it, I'm watching it. One of my friends, he's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna wait for the whole thing to come out. Wait for the whole thing to come out." And he's like, "But I have been paying attention to the discourse." And as soon as like the Cortosis game thing, he's like, "I really don't like that they're adding things to Star Wars." I'm like, "You stop your roll right there, young one. Do you not know
Yeah.
the old texts?" It's
Yeah.
like, how dare
But-
you say that this
Me
is
But
and
good?
the
also,
old text
that-
young one.
But also that attitude bothers me.
Yeah,
You're
like you're
you're
supposed to
talking
add
about
new things.
right, like this is a whole like
It's
Star
a
Wars uses the
galaxy.
term galaxy,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna say galaxy instead of universe. It's a whole galaxy. You're
Yep.
telling me that you don't think it's you think it's dumb to add things to a setting that has multiple planets? Like we're on Earth and we're still discovering new shit.
Yeah.
I was speaking to some person who was like, oh, I heard, the little cavern thing is a little bad. And I'm like, well, when in Clone Wars, when they introduced the Witches of Dathomir, did you have a problem with that? Yeah, but they were established already. No, they were introduced in Clone Wars. Did you have a problem with them
Well,
in Clone Wars?
No, the witches go back to like the 1980s, dude.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Did you
Uh-huh.
remember the best Star Wars movie, The Battle for Endor?
Yeah.
Yep. First appearance
The-
of a Force Witch.
Yeah, that's the Force Witch, and I
But
think she
then
was
wait,
called the
now,
Dathomiri
that-
sister.
Really? She's
Yeah.
supposed to be a Force Witch? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
couldn't
they went
remember
back
if
and like
they used the term.
recodified it later, but yeah, the witches go back all the way.
Oh,
The witches
okay.
go
But they-
back.
Witches
like-
are a long time thing, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair
Did
enough.
you have a
Anything
problem?
I
in
make
Clone
my
Wars or
mistake.
Rebels, Filoni brought from Legends. That's all he does. Filoni just
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
brings
just
back the
think
old
about
stuff.
it like this.
Um,
Like, did you have a
that's the-
problem with droidicas? Because they didn't exist in 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything in the prequels, really, like
Yeah.
like there's a lot of stuff that gets added to like everything in the Mandalorian is new. Nothing about Mandalorian culture. Well, maybe not nothing, because a lot was in like Clone Wars and stuff. But like
Yeah, but they changed a lot
of
of it over time.
A lot of the stuff in the Mandalorian show,
Yeah.
arguably one of the most popular entries to the franchise, is new shit.
Mhm.
You
You
can't
know,
like to say like I don't like them adding stuff to a place where they travel through hyperspace to God knows where. It's
Right,
like, come on.
like if you're just gonna like if you just want it to be the same 6 characters going to the same 3 desert planets to do the same task over and over again, go watch Dune, I guess.
Yeah.
Hey,
play
Dune.
the KOTOR games.
Yeah, no, Dune
You're always
never
gonna go
came
back there.
I had
that's-
no experience with Dune. It was a desert
Dune-
planet joke.
Dune
Yeah.
is literally just worms and sand. That's the entire books.
That sounds like
I
Beetlejuice.
take slight offense to
Anakin-
that. There's more to
Anakin
it than
hates
just
it.
I
worms.
know,
Anakin
Phil.
hates
I actually did end up reading all the books, so I know there's
Yeah,
more
I
to
haven't.
it. But when you bring
Yeah.
it,
But it
actually,
gets everywhere.
actually the whole theme of Dune is Duncan Idaho is no one's stud. That is it.
Damn, Skippy. Yes, by the
Listen,
6th
in
book,
the
that
like,
definitely
damn
is.
book,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
says it.
yeah.
But it's just
That is
I got a
accurate.
bad feeling about this.
yes. But
But,
how can you not like it's Star Wars? We're literally making up races on the fly if we have to make something look
Yeah,
cool.
right,
Like it
right.
doesn't matter.
One of the
Basil's
greatest,
new, right?
one of the
Yeah.
greatest iconic characters was literally made up on the fly because they changed the script halfway through.
Speaking of
character?
Basil,
Yoda.
yeah,
Ah,
Oh yeah.
I-
Obi-Wan
speaking
was
of Basil.
supposed to live
yeah.
through all
Mhm.
3 of
Ah.
them. He said having him sit
I
there
didn't know
watching
that.
the battle with Leia was kind of degrading to his character, so he killed him off.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Alec Guinness got upset and he's like, "Look, I'll bring you back in like a ghosty form." He's like, "Okay, fine." And then he was like, "Oh crap, I need somebody to train Luke now because Obi-Wan's supposed to do the training sequence in Dagobah." And then he literally made up Yoda, and that's why
Yeah.
there's so much mystery
Created
around him
Gremlin.
because he
One-
has no
one
freaking
more
clue what
point.
Yoda is.
Sometimes I hear people complain about like new things in Star Wars, and like, well, George didn't intend that, but like George made up a lot of stuff that we didn't see originally. But more than that, so much when you look at the behind the scenes of the movies, so often he makes decisions on the fly based on people's
Uh-huh.
feedback.
Uh-huh.
Like he's like,
Also-
yeah.
You can't.
Also,
and
who
also
gives
like
a shit what George intended? He's not in charge anymore.
And
Like,
plus,
yeah,
if we don't get
that's
new
true. Yeah,
things,
of
we don't get the
course.
cool droid chairs.
right.
Droid
But, yeah,
chairs.
the
No,
droid
those
chairs were
droid
cool.
chairs were sick. I
No,
like
they
that.
were.
That was a
They were
cool-
nice.
No, they
love
were very
those
cool.
things.
But like you can also go to that, like you can't like because a lot of stuff you don't even understand is established. Like the person who tells the alien person that tells the sand troopers, hey, I know where the droids are you're looking for, and that's why they attack the Millennium Falcon.
Mhm.
That's the Garrett Kubaz. Nobody knows that name. So if you go with the
Nope.
Kubaz is why it's always done. Like what is that? Like the thing that's been but nobody knows. Like so if you don't know what's already established, why do you care what's coming new, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
But
Yeah,
speaking of Basil,
Yeah,
does
bring it to
Basil
Basil.
smell
Basil.
scent, or does he smell in force intent? Because he sniffed at Soul and then made the ship stop before Soul could do anything.
Yeah,
Like,
that's the
I
only
That was
one
the
of the big
weirdest
confusions from the
thing.
episode is why does
the,
Basil break the ship? I didn't understand that. Can
the
someone
only
explain that? I missed it.
explanation I've seen, and it's a speculated explanation. There's no like confirmed this is, but the only thing that makes sense to me that I've seen people speculate is that Basil is in there and he's seeing this chase scene happen, the only thing he can think of is, I have to fucking stop this now because we will crash and die.
I was under
You are
the
driving through an
assumption-
asteroid field, you fucking asshole. I'm
Yeah.
gonna hit the brakes for you.
Yeah, I was under the assumption it was either he, like he was thinking Soul was doing something crazy and he had to stop it, or basically, I think he had the idea that Soul was going to shoot her down and wanted to stop him because he knew that wasn't what you should be doing in this scenario.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see why Basil would have any uh real concern for whether or not Soul shoots down May. He clearly didn't actually like May. He did like his little
Yeah.
kung fu thing at her.
I could see maybe because he is a tracker for the Jedi, and maybe he realizes the Jedi shouldn't kill somebody running. I have no idea.
Yeah,
Or
But,
maybe
like,
he was
'cause he
trying to
did
make sure the
sniff-
ship didn't
He
leave
did
so that the
sniff it,
Jedi
like,
could catch
well,
up.
yeah,
Maybe
I was
that.
confused because he was sniffing the air, like, okay, I smell something. I'm like, so does he smell like, okay, he's smelling the clothes of May, but the clothes of May smell like murder, right? You know what I mean? Like, does he
Yeah.
kind of like
burnt
in
hair.
Rogue One, where he's like, his weapon was set on sniper mode, like, the force surrounding him with the intent to kill is what the blind not Jedi said.
I mean, maybe.
yeah.
So I
it
don't know.
might be
I was just
slightly
confused. I'm like,
force-trained.
Basil, what are you doing?
Yeah, but
It's
it
just
is
like-
very random that Basil did what he did.
Yeah.
I mean,
that
it made an
was
amazing
pretty
crash
weird.
scene, though. It was an amazing
Cool
like
crash
spin
scene.
and knocked everything. It kind of made things worse for me because it made May crash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the Basil part of that was definitely, I think that was the weakest part of the episode.
Mhm.
Possibly
Yeah.
the weakest moment in the season.
It just
Because
didn't.
it's the one thing
the
that
only
makes
one that didn't make sense.
absolutely
Yeah.
no sense.
But you know what did
Um,
make sense?
Uh-oh.
None of that. Just right before it happened. Just May going, "See you in hell, Jedi." Wonderful
Yeah.
line. Loved it.
It was a
It
good
took
line.
me out of it a little bit. Have they mentioned hell in
Yeah,
Star
I
Wars?
Yes,
saw
yeah.
since
said it.
Empire
Yeah.
Strikes Back.
Okay.
Your
Yeah.
tauntaun will
It's a
freeze
good list.
before
See
you
you in
reach the
hell.
first
Yeah.
marker. Then I'll see you in
Okay.
hell. Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, but
And I was also
I figured out
I was
Basil.
getting towards
and,
making a joke about new
episode
things.
4 when she blows up the air duct. What the hell are you doing?
Okay, yeah, then
Yeah,
that's
good
fine.
point.
That's great.
Basil
It
Basil
was
was
a
saving Pip
great line.
because he charged Pip up and she saw May take Pip, so he was saving Pip. That's why Basil.
There we go.
Gotta save
He
Pip.
misses Pip.
Which
He goes,
oh,
"No,
I
Pip's-
thought that
Pip's
was
on that
great.
ship."
I thought that was great when Ocean May are fighting and she looks down and goes, Pit, and Pit just spits in her face.
Yeah,
I
'cause it's
really
reprogrammed evil Pip.
I really hope that if we get a season 2, we get a line of dialogue from Osha to May, like, you killed my like, I want her to at least verbally address that Pip, like, got killed, essentially. I
Mhm.
understand why it didn't happen in this episode, because Osha spent this entire episode kicking one person's ass or another. Like, she was busy. Sometimes you have to put like a certain realization aside, like, oh shit, my droid is dead. I'll deal with that later. Because my sister is currently trying to kick my ass. And then after that, oh shit, my surrogate father killed my mom. I need to just murder this guy. Like, sometimes you just have to put certain things aside. So I hope that she addresses it at least in one line of dialogue somewhere down the line. That's the only thing I want to see.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I definitely poured one big one out for like my bestest Jedi soul there, but I think he went out like a boss.
Yeah.
Yes.
But no, great.
That
The biggest
that
crime
death
to
scene was
Soul.
incredible.
Soul.
It was
great,
acceptance.
Great. Yeah.
It was acceptance. Like he's like, Osha, it's okay. I get it.
Yeah.
Yes,
He-
that was a
he did
great line.
Such a great job. It was a great character throughout the whole thing. Once
Yep.
we finally
Mhm.
realized it's all about his guilt and him making like a mistake, good intentions, but still a mistake, doing a terrible thing, being guilty for it, trying to do the right thing, stopping, freezing, and then finally just getting killed by the thing that he was trying to protect. Great, wonderful character. The
And
biggest
it's the
fuck over
oh,
to
go ahead.
him was what Vanessa did afterwards.
Oh yeah, I
Yes,
completely
yeah.
understand why
destroyed
she
his
did it.
legacy completely.
I love hate it, not like because I think it was a bad move. I think writing it made perfect. I just love the idea of we don't get to see a Jedi zealot much, and we're seeing one, and it's nice just to see like, oh, by the way, it's not just the dark side that is really over the top with trying to do things to keep things in power, but like
See,
I also really loved the bleeding of the crystal because we finally got to
yes,
see it. We got to see
yes.
you basically torment a kyber crystal to be red, and it was
Yeah.
fantastic.
That was
We
great.
we
I
got to see it, and I felt it was very well earned by the episode with just like that
Yeah.
whole scene leading up to it. It was cool.
I I've seen some people complain about that scene because it's not like the way we've seen it in like the comics or if I don't know if you've played Jedi Survivor, there's a scene where it happens in Jedi Survivor. I'm not going to give any spoilers there. I I've seen I've read that comic where, Vader bleeds his crystal. I played Jedi Survivor, and I think this is the best example of seeing a kyber crystal get bled out of all of them. I think this moment of she's got the crystal, and if you look closely, it actually has protruded from the saber, and it is touching
Yeah.
her flesh.
Yep.
So there are people who are like, "No, you have to touch it," and it's like, well, guess what? She's touching it.
Yeah.
But having it be in that moment where all of that grief and pain and anger and all of that negative emotional feedback is happening all at once, and it watching it progressively like
Yeah.
encompass the blade, like that was so much more dramatic and so much more engaging than Vader kneeling in front of a rock and having a bunch of fucking hallucinations until the lightsaber turns red, or the character in Jedi Survivor just like kind of unprompted and without context opening his lightsaber, taking the crystal out, closing it in his fist, and then it turns red and he puts it back in. Like
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
this one had so much more gravitas to it that
It really did.
it is my preferred scene and how I would like to imagine it happening broadly, you know.
Yes. You
Yeah.
really felt what was going on in that moment.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
it
And
was just
it
so well
suits
done.
Osha a lot. It suits
Yes.
Osha a lot because she spends the whole season conflicted between the person who she like kind of wanted to become. Like she definitely still wanted to be that galaxy exploring Jedi, but she couldn't do it because she can't let go of the stuff that had happened to her in the past, her feelings of responsibility and grief and pain. And there's been that conflict the whole season. And in that scene, you see that conflict because it starts to turn red, but then the red recedes a little bit,
Yep.
and then she just says no. She's like, "Let's go," and she's like, well, she doesn't let go of the grief. She lets go of everything but the grief,
Yep.
and it takes over. And like, I find it fascinating too because it's all in response to Soul saying it's okay, and it's like those are words of comfort, and those words of comfort appear to make her more angry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's like for his own survival, that was the worst thing he could have done. Like it almost would have been better if he'd been like, "Your mom was a bitch," like 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 if he just started talking shit, it might have thrown her off enough to like make her question what she was doing. Um, that whole sequence with like, and again, like that moment of it's okay, is Soul finally like acknowledging that he's been bullshitting. He's been saying, I did it to protect you. I did the right thing. I did what I thought was right. It was the best thing for you. And in that moment, he has to kind of admit, like, no, I was wrong. If you have to kill me, it's okay.
Yep.
It's I love that scene. That was the best scene of the episode.
Um,
I thought the rest of the episode wasn't as good, but that scene, they landed. They
That
nailed
scene
it.
was great, and I think it came like perfectly. Like I think that whole sequence flowed from that like the cat and mouse trying to find May, and then May and Osha have the confrontation, and then Kamir and Saul fighting, which
Great fight.
episode five was probably the best fight scene of the series because it was a whole episode of a fight scene.
Yeah.
But
as
this
far
was
as
a
a
good
single
reprise.
as
Yeah.
far as a single fight goes that isn't the whole driving force of the episode, this is probably one of the best saber fights, period.
Yeah.
One
Yeah,
of my
and,
favorite
like-
moments in that fight was when Kamir is pulling Soul's lightsaber towards his
Yes.
helmet, and
Yes.
Soul just goes, "Fuck you," and turns off his lightsaber.
It was perfect. That was
Kyrie
great.
was
I
trying
love
to slow-mo headbutt that. Like, he's like, I will do
Yeah.
it. Don't you fucking play with me.
And I love the
Oh.
sparks. That was such a good thing. I also love when he threw the blades and rushed him. He just put his saber away and did like
Yep,
airbending, and it was fantastic.
so good. It was a
It was
great
one
Like
of the
Soul-
best like saber / force power fights we've seen in most of
Yes.
Star Wars.
Yeah,
And it was just wonderful.
Yeah,
And
the
so
choreography
both
in
of them
the
did such
show
a great
was
job.
incredible. The
it
choreography
it
of the whole
just
show. was great.
reaffirmed that Soul is probably my favorite Jedi now.
Yeah,
Because
He's
not because
definitely
he
up
can
there.
fight cool with great choreography, because he's such a good Jedi because he's flawed. Like his flaws is what makes him a perfect Jedi, because he's not trying to hide from those flaws. He embraces it wrongly, going, "I did the right thing in my point of view." Because remember, even back with Obi-Wan, it is a truth from a particular point of view. So like
Yep.
it just works so well for Soul, and the fact
What's-
that like he wanted to face the council initially. If he
Yeah.
did, this never would have happened. It's just,
Uh-huh.
I was about to say, like he realized he made a mistake, that he really messed up, and then because of the counsel of others, he didn't own up to it. And he
Mhm.
held on to that guilt that is eventually his downfall. Though those other people were probably right also in that point of view on telling
Yeah.
him not to say anything at the time because it would stop Osha from being a Jedi. And it's just a really interesting kind of like paradox, catch-22.
yeah, the
Mhm.
right actions
But you
for
do
the
have
wrong
to
reasons
wonder.
screw
Yeah.
things up.
Right. You do
Mhm.
have to wonder though, if if Soul had, gone to the council and admitted it, and they hadn't let Osha be a Jedi, you have to wonder, would that have actually been better for her? Because we know that Jedi training and Jedi doctrine is very strict and very specific about letting go of your emotions and your attachments. And
Which
this
she
is
couldn't
someone
do.
who is going through a grieving process.
Mhm.
And generally, if your friend or loved one is grieving the death of their entire family to a horrible fire, the worst advice you can give them is let go of them. Forget they ever existed.
Yeah.
They weren't important.
Well,
This
that's
is
the worst
holding you
advice
back.
you could
Like,
give anyone
that's
if you're
terrible advice.
yeah, but that's like the Jedi doctrines, why they remove people so young so they can't have those
Right,
experiences.
right.
And this
Well,
is the flaw of the
yes, but
Jedi innately, right?
that's the point I'm getting at though, is that for Osha specifically, her life may have been better had she not been taken in by the Jedi for training. If the Jedi had
100%
said,
agree.
"We will not accept you," but I would argue most likely at that time the Jedi would have been like, "We will help you find somewhere to live."
Oh yeah,
You
they probably would have been like,
know,
"We will help
we
you
will-
through this terrible process of what just
Right,
happened
like-
to you."
Like we'll hook you up with a foster family or some shit.
Or
Because
at the
you
very
know.
least, give her like a non-Jedi job in the temple until she
Sure,
gets
she
back
could've-
on her
Which they
feet.
do
she could have
have.
worked in the
Yeah.
archives, yeah. I think that would have been overall for Osha better. It would have been more painful for Osha in the moment. Would have stacked another bad
Mhm.
feeling on top of the pile.
Yeah.
But
Oh, I can't be a Jedi
get-
now.
Right, like, but disappointment like that is that's a blunt pain compared to I just watched my sister fall into a chasm, and then my home is on fire, and it turns out my sister killed everybody because everyone's lying to me. Like, even if they hadn't lied to her, like, that's yeah, your family's dead. Everyone you knew as your family is dead.
Yep.
Mhm.
Here's a laser
Yeah.
sword. Like, that's not what you did.
Here's a laser sword. Forget they all existed.
Exactly. So it's there is a lot of nuance to the narrative and to the underlying like subtext of the Acolyte as a whole. I will say, all told, all 8 episodes, there were some missteps. I won't lie.
Yep.
There were a couple of narrative issues, little pacing issues. I do think the Rashomon approach, they kind of shot themselves in the foot with it. It was a cool idea. I personally don't think it added much to the show. But there was a
think it
lot of
could've.
nuance and cool subtext to the show,
Mhm.
and I'm glad it exists as an entry to the Star Wars franchise. And my initial advice, like when I watched the first couple episodes, I spoke to Robin, my wife, And I was like, yeah, I don't know if it's any good. I can't say I recommend watching it right now. And then as it went on, the more I was like, okay, there are cool things. And now that we've got the whole thing, yeah, I would say if you're at all interested in it, give it a shot. Definitely watch episode 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So,
mean,
like,
it's
it just
definitely a
makes-
worthwhile watch. I just feel
Yes.
like the whole 8-episode concept that we get on stream platforms actually hurt their approach. I feel like this would have been something that would have benefited of a more traditional length season of like shows and stuff, because I feel like Darth Plagueis, the Light Whip, and Khmer, and the tie-in of like you're still alive. I feel like all of that would have had a better payoff or a better setup and be a better transition to hey, coming season 2, if we had time to actually devote to like, because one of the things like one of the things you get out of like TV shows that have 14 to 16 episodes in the season, or even just double digits barely, is you usually get time for the core cast of characters to get an episode devoted to character growth to help things go along. And here we had to be like, put it all in this episode, like a certain episode. Really and it's just like Kelnaka. They could have easily been an episode of why Kelnaka went there after this, but we didn't have time for that, right?
Yeah.
And
honestly,
honestly,
it could have been an episode of Torben. Why does Torben decide to go mute and impenetrable for no
And
reason?
he went mute
not no reason.
fairly quickly, because going off the time lapse, he became a master pretty quickly.
Well, and
Yeah.
that is a thing that I think building off of James's point, I do think that is one of the big flaws of the show. Like if you look at anybody other than Osha and May, we know jack shit all about them.
Yeah.
We don't even really know anything about Soul.
I don't know. We know enough about him.
We know enough about him in the context of the show.
Yes.
But do we know where he's from? Do we know who his master is? Do we know his general approach to the Jedi Code? Like, we really don't know anything about him, and it's a shame.
Yep.
We can extrapolate more about him than the rest of the cast because we've seen him on screen more, but we don't know anything about his history. We don't really know anything about his relationships to the other characters, really.
Yep.
Like even the other 4 Jedi, we got next to no real interaction.
And
I mean,
really,
I don't know. I
to be
think
honest,
was the most fleshed out.
And to be perfectly honest, like going off of that, Soul doesn't really seem very troubled by them all dying. And it seemed like the only real connection he had to them was the one planet. Like going off, it wasn't like, oh, so and so is dead. Like we don't know.
Well, because
okay, did you like her? Did you hate her?
Yeah, that's true. James's point is the real one: Jedi attachment. The point I was going to make is you could kill any 4 of my coworkers, and I wouldn't give a shit.
On an interesting
I only have
thing,
4 coworkers, so I can't say that.